Good morning, this is your daily outlook for Friday the 16th of December. The euro produced mixed results against most of its major counterparts on a day where risk aversion appeared to have calmed down. The last Spanish bond auction for the year was successful, allotting around 6 billion euros, considerably above the initial target. Eurozone PMIs also came out slightly better than expected. Versus the US dollar, the single currency retraced back to 1.3028 from 1.2987. Against the Swiss franc, the euro plunged to 1.2242 from 1.2380. This came after the Swiss National Bank did not move the 120 floor higher, citing a benign economic and inflation outlook. Nevertheless, the central bank noted that it stands ready to take further measures at any time if the economic outlook and the risk of deflation so require. Investors' focus today will be on the Italian confidence vote over austerity measures and the ECB President Draghi's speech at 8:30 GMT. The US dollar gave back some of the gains it had amassed against a basket of currencies over the last few days. This was mainly due to the number of people filing for unemployment benefits dropping to 366,000, the lowest since May 2008. Versus the Swiss franc, the US dollar lost more than 1%, dropping to 0.9395 from 0.9531. It had previously recorded a 10-month high at 0.9548. Against the Canadian dollar, the greenback dropped to 1.0335 from 1.0386. Versus the Japanese yen, the US dollar fell to 77.84 from 78.06. The Australian dollar rose to 0.9937 from 0.9886 against the US dollar as moderate risk appetite re-emerged after the positive US unemployment data. The British pound bounced back to 1.5523 from 1.5472 versus the US dollar. The UK retail sales figures for November came out worse than expected, falling by 0.4%. Looking at commodities, oil prices dropped to $93.30 a barrel from $95.15. Gold rose to $1,575.56 an ounce from $1,573.20. Silver followed suit, moving to $29.32 an ounce from $29.04. And now let's see what the currencies were doing this morning. The Euro-US dollar pivot point is 1.3040 with a preference to sell short at 1.3040. The US dollar Japanese yen pivot point is 78, with a preference to sell short at 78. The Australian dollar US dollar pivot point is 1, with a preference to sell short at 1. The British pound US dollar pivot point is 1.5470, with a preference to buy long at 1.5470. The US dollar CAD is 1.0370, and the preference is to sell short at 1.0370. And on to commodities. The oil pivot point is 95, with a preference to sell short at 95. The gold pivot point is 1,562, with a preference to buy long at 1,562. The silver pivot point is 28.45, with a preference to buy long at 28.45. And for more up-to-date information, please go to easy-forex.com. Now looking at the market movers on today's calendar. The EU trade balance for October is forecast to narrow to 1 billion. The EU labour costs for the third quarter will be announced, and the US Core Consumer Price Index for November is forecast to rise by 2.1%. Now onto equities, which were positive across the board. In Europe, the FTSE 100 rose by 0.63%, the DAX rose by 0.98%, and the CAC rose by 0.78%. In the US, the S&P 500 rose 0.32%, the Dow Jones rose 0.38%, and in Asia at the time of recording, the Nikkei had risen 0.29% and the Hang Seng had risen 2.11%. This has been your Daily Outlook. I'm Amanda from the Easy Forex Dealing Room. Have a great weekend.
Not only have you found a great place for Forex news, you found a great place to trade it. Registration is easy. Just click Join Now. Membership has its unique benefits, such as the freeze rate, the trade simulator, the inside viewer, and personal dealers. Your personal account manager waiting for you now.